Moving now to file item 10, AB 620. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 620 by Assemblymember Roger Hernandez, an act relating to transportation.
Mr. Hernandez, you may open.
Mr. Speaker and members, AB 620 requires LA Metro to continue their efforts to improve their low-income assistance program for commuters of limited means who also want the opportunity to use express lanes. The current outcomes being achieved by LA Metro to low-income assistance program are unfortunately disappointing and have left a lot of room for improvement. For example, to date, 8,877 households are enrolled in low-income assistance programs out of a population nearing 500,000. It is important to ensure greater opportunities for enrollment by low-income commuters and low-income assistance program. Toll lanes are an important tool for transportation, congestion management, and I, like you, hate traffic as well. However, the other reality is that toll lanes can have a disproportionate impact on low-income commuters. Economic studies show the biggest burden on family incomes is the cost of housing and transportation. A report by Smart Growth America found that transportation is the second largest expense for American households, costing more than food, clothing, and health care. I'm glad that LA Metro has removed their opposition to AB 620 and that we are united in the purpose to better assist low-income commuters access the express lanes. And for all those reasons, I respectfully request your aye vote.
Mr. Frazier, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I rise in support of AB 620. I want to commend Mr. Hernandez for bringing the issues to light and for the commitment he made to me to work with Metro for mutually acceptable solutions. The bill gives and reflects Metro's commitment to work to increase participation in its low-income assistance program. Now let's just hope Metro sticks to this and we'll get going. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez, for bringing this forward. I urge an aye vote.
Mr. Harper, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I remained very concerned about this long-term effort to convert our freeways into toll roads. And I think this is just simply a way to be able to remove one of the arguments against converting our freeways to toll roads in an effort to expand this from the 110 and the 10 to the mini freeways across the state of California to eventually become a massive toll road system, which is what this looks like this is just a start for. I, for one, oppose this conversion of freeways into toll roads, and I urge my colleagues to oppose this bad bill.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Hernandez, you may close.
Again, this bill is about making sure that we have more equity on our roads. These are taxpayer-funded roads, whether you're wealthy, middle class, or struggling to make ends meet. They are the roads of the people, and we should make sure that there is equity in the process. Again, LA Metro has removed their opposition. We are working together. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 47, noes 23. The measure passes. Going now to file item 11, AB 1272. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1272 by Assemblymember Grove, an act relating to crimes.
Ms. Grove, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to present AB 1272 today. Colleagues, people with developmental disabilities are victimized by violent crimes at much higher rates than the general population because the perpetrators often go free because these cases face unique difficulties when trying to prosecute cases. And so current law allows for special or reasonable efforts to set aside trial dates and individual attorneys for people that are facing murder or sexual assault or child abuse offenses. And so I want to add the developmental disabilities community in this so that they can have adequate representation to make sure that that they have a specialized counsel to meet their needs. And so this bill has received no votes, which is just a shock all in itself because of who I am. But so let's just be real, right? So it's received no votes, and it's recently been supported by the ARC California. It's officially supported by the Judicial Council of California and the California District Attorneys Association. I request an aye vote.
Mr. Gatto, you're recognized.
Question for the author, please.
Without objection.
Is this your first bill?
Ms. Grove, you may choose to answer that or not.
No, actually, I've had about 60, but no, our colleague that left the 31st Assembly just recently was the first committee chair to let one of my bills out a few years ago, so you missed that one. But I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 72, noes 0. The measure passes. File item 12 has already been sent to the inactive file. File items 13 and 14 will be passed and retained. And file item 15, AB 821, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 821 by Assemblymember Gibson, and act related to taxation.
Mr. Gibson, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. Thank you for allowing me to present Assembly Bill 821, which seeks to support the California tax collection effort by removing the penalties associated with certain cash payments over $10,000 a month. Currently, all sales and use tax payments in excess of $10,000 a month are required to pay through an electronic funds transfer. This requirement makes tax collecting more convenient. However, businesses in the medical marijuana industry have been rendered unbankable due to the fact that medical marijuana is still considered an illegal federal drug. This has made it hard to comply with the law, leading most of the estimated 50,000 medical marijuana businesses to use cash as their payment for taxes. Current law provides a case-by-case waiver, but this is still a cumbersome process, whereas this bill seeks to provide a comprehensive solution by giving medical cannabis businesses an ongoing exemption. This bill will also save the state money by reducing administrative burden associated with the waiver process. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Wagner, you're recognized.
Initially, I was intrigued by this bill, and frankly, any taxpayer that wants to pay their taxes, we ought not stand in the way and force them to jump through hoops, go get electronic funds transfers, etc. But in talking with some members of the Board of Equalization, there really is a problem here with accepting those large payments in cash. You end up actually putting at risk some of the tax collectors who have in their facilities and are not geared to handle that cash. You put them at some risk. I'm not frankly sure what the solution is, and maybe what we do is we find some alternate ways to allow some of these cash-rich businesses to pay their taxes. But I want to say it's not an entirely as simple as it may sound, because you will end up having government employees, tax collectors, forced to handle large sums of cash, which provides perhaps an inviting target. So before we rush in and say this is the answer, realize there is a potential downside, and maybe we need to bring this back and think about it, and through some emergency legislation come up with a solution that satisfies that problem as well. So for the time being, I'd urge a no vote.
Mr. Quirk, you're recognized.
I appreciate the member from Orange County and his comments. However, no matter what we do here today, they're going to be paying in cash. We made sure that in rev and tax, this strictly applies to people who cannot have banking, which is the medical marijuana industry. Everyone else is going to still get a penalty, but there simply is no choice in this industry other than cash because there is no banking. Now, people are working on solutions to find some banking for medical marijuana, but we still can't do it because of federal government. And until that changes, I think we have to go forward with this and not penalize people who have no alternative. Again, this is a very narrow bill, strictly for people who cannot have banking.
Assemblymember Christina Garcia.
I rise in support of this bill. I think the comments made by our colleague from Orange County are important, that we need to find alternatives. But in the meantime, we need to close the gap, and we can't punish people. We can't tell them follow the rules, and now we're going to punish you with an extra fee. And so we don't have an ideal situation, but while we figure out those alternatives and how we're going to make them work and get them up and running, we need this law to go into effect now. Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Gibson, you may close.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Members, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 52, no 16. Measure passes. Moving to file item 16, AB 717, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 717 by Assemblymember Gonzalez and others, an act relating to taxation to take effect immediately, tax levy.
Ms. Gonzalez, you may open.
Thank you. Today I present AB 717, which would exempt diapers size 3 and smaller from sales tax. In the face of California's illogical sales tax code, this is a common sense bill. Diapers are necessary, just like food and medicine. So what is exempt from sales tax while diapers are taxed? Candy, Viagra, yoga memberships, and yachts used in Nevada within 90 days of purchase before being stored or used in California. So apparently there are a lot of things we believe are so important to our society and so necessary that we don't tax them, and yet the very thing that we know every child needs and cost a lot is taxed. This tax exemption will allow the average family to save $100 a year. That's enough to purchase diapers for 1 month. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Ms. Melendez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think I could state it more eloquently than the author did, but lest there is anyone in here who's thinking about not voting for this bill, I will remind you that some of the things that are tax-free in the state of California, including candy, are food, medicine, canes, crutches, that all makes sense. Also, dry ice, artwork, if it's purchased by a government or a nonprofit organization, and poultry litter, which I didn't even know existed. But if poultry litter can be tax-free, I think we can extend ourselves and make sure that diapers are tax-free as well. I urge an aye vote.
Mr. Wagner, you're recognized.
It has taken me 6 years to rise to encourage this body to do a little bit of tax relief and have a reasonable chance of winning that argument. So I'm going to urge this body to provide this tax relief and vote aye on the bill.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Ms. Gonzalez, you may close.
In this assembly of love and bipartisanship today, I respectfully ask your aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 70, no 0. The measure passes. Moving to file items 17, 18, and 19, we will pass and retain. File item 20, AB 492. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 492 by Assemblymember Gonzalez, an act relating to CalWorks.
Ms. Gonzalez, you may open.
Well, I'm so excited that we're talking diapers today, and it's a pleasure that both these bills hit the floor on the same day. And I have to tell you, I really hope that the other side of the aisle will also look at this bill, because it's very important. You know, this is crazy but true. In 2002, Eminem came out with a song, quite frankly, and I remember always working out to the song, and my daughter had just got out of diapers. And it talked about the fact that working 9 to 5, they couldn't make ends meet because those damn food stamps just don't buy diapers. And I'd always think about that, and I thought, well, doesn't WIC? Like, what happens? Because knowing how much diapers are, what happens to hard-struggling families that cannot purchase diapers and are living paycheck to paycheck? I tried a few years ago to get a cash infusement in CalWorks for people who had children in order that they could buy diapers. And it passed this floor and passed the Senate, and it got stuck in Senate probes on a purely Democratic basis. And what I heard from some of my Republican colleagues was, well, we just can't give money out. I'm for it. I believe in it, but we just can't give this money out. So I narrowly tailored this bill. And I think after last week when I heard the exuberance around how much we value babies and how much we want people who are struggling to choose to have children. And I'll tell you something. I am an advocate for reducing abortions, and I think that we need to provide young women, struggling women, with the resources necessary to make themselves self-sustainable and be able to raise children. Because if we're truly pro-life, we're pro-life when those babies are born as well. So what this bill does is very targeted. If you're on CalWorks and you qualify for subsidized childcare, which means you have a job or enrolled in school and are trying to become self-sufficient, it will put a $50 voucher on your EBT card that can only be used for diapers, $50 a month. Because when you're in subsidized childcare, you have to show up with 8 to 10 diapers every day. And it's not paid for with food stamps, and it's not paid for with WIC. And we know the CalWorks amount is too little to really make ends meet. We heard the testimony of a woman in Human Services who was so excited. She finally got a job, qualified for subsidized childcare, and showed up the first day and couldn't drop her child off because she could not afford 8 to 10 clean diapers. It's a barrier to work. It's a barrier to self-sufficiency. I really hope people will decide to walk their talk. I'm so excited to say that Senator Joel Anderson just signed on as a co-author in the Senate, but I hope we can have the kind of bipartisan belief in life on this floor as well. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Gomez, you're recognized.
I rise in support of Assembly Bill 492. I actually believe this bill is a better bill than the previous one, because this one is more targeted, the price tag is lower, and it goes to the families that really can't help their kids with buying the diapers in order to get them into daycare. The daycare issue is a big issue. This one is helping the lowest income individuals in our state throughout everyone's assembly districts. So I ask for an aye vote on this bill, and this one is definitely the one that I believe will get signed by the governor. Thank you so much.
Ms. Brown, you're recognized.
I rise to support the bill. I believe that it's a bill that's a right bill at the right time for the right people. And I believe that we need to look out for those who are less fortunate. And as we talk about those that are less fortunate, I have to think about depends. I realize as we're sitting here, and some of the colleagues are saying, well, what about depends? Now, I raised my mic earlier, but it was just too late. I think that we need to look at this whole thing holistically, and let's include our seniors in the silver tsunami.
Mr. Wagner, you're recognized.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I got to say, you don't get to come onto this floor and vote for some of the stuff we've seen about expanding the scope of abortions and who can provide abortions and celebrating Roe versus Wade and say, but don't worry, I'm pro-life on diapers. So I don't think that argument really resonates. But I do think there is actually something to this bill, which is why I have a question of the author.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my friend from San Diego, in the last debate you told us about some of the items that are not taxed. And I guess my question would be, can you give us some of the items for which you can access this benefit for which diapers are excluded so that we can kind of compare apples to apples?
Ms. Gonzalez.
I'm sorry.
Don't understand. Right. For example, in the
this diaper bill has nothing to do. It does not allow you to use food stamps for diapers. It adds an extra voucher. So your question, although I understand what you're doing and might even agree with you on that, is not appropriate to this bill.
No. My question is...
Your question is, what else can you use food stamps and WIC for? Well, WIC, by the way, is a very clean program. But food stamps, I understand what you're trying to do here, but that's not what this bill does. So we'll stick to the subject of this bill. And in futures, I'd be happy to work with you and say we shouldn't allow junk food to be bought with food stamps, and perhaps we should be more selective. I know that's what you're getting at. I'm happy to have that discussion with you, but that's not what this bill does.
Well, actually,
this bill is
Mr.
an extra $50.
If I could ask one member to speak at a time, Mr. Wagner.
That it was actually a friendly question, because I think there are some things that could be used that us looking at would put in perspective and say, hey, diapers are as important as that. But if you don't think so, and if you don't want to answer the question, then I guess I will withdraw the question.
Can I respond? I just want to be clear that just so people understand how this works, this doesn't change the food stamp program. That's a federal program, and those rules are made by the federal government. What this does, we can't say you can suddenly use food stamps for diapers. It's an ag program, and that's why it can't be. We can't say you can suddenly use WIC for diapers. What this says is when you get that card, because now we're going to a card-based system, we, as a state of California, if you are in subsidized childcare, we're going to put $50 that you can use only on diapers on that card as well. That's what this bill does.
Mr. Gibson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let me just thank the author for bringing this bill before us, one who represents the sixth poorest district in the state of California, one who also represents 8.9% unemployment in its district, have spoke to mothers and families regarding this bill, and the author of this bill hailing from San Diego. And my constituents are excited about this bill because everyone, even though the economy and the numbers look good in terms of California recovering, there are still people struggling day in and day out. I remember growing up as a young boy in Watts, and in my community, we used to actually go next door and get Pampers until someone got paid in order to buy Pampers, and that was a consistent thing going on in my community. And so if that was going on when I was a young man growing up, I know that that's going on even today. I think this is a common sense bill. I want to thank the author for bringing this forward, because now you're going to help families throughout the state of California who are still struggling, but also making sure the kids have diapers in which they need. So I respectfully ask when I vote. Thank you.
Assemblymember Christina Garcia.
Members, I rise in support. Diapers are a fixed monthly expense for our families that cost up to about $100 per child. Providing a monthly $50 supplement to be used only in diapers would be a small investment in the overall success of the CalWorks to help thousands of families stay on track. When families on CalWorks are still on the path to becoming financially stable, every dollar counts and diapers get very expensive. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Thurman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise in support of AB 492. Colleagues, I'm really impressed on the action that we just took before this one to make it possible for families with financial need to be able to get a little bit further in their ability to purchase diapers for their children. I would see this bill as really working in concert and in tandem with that very effort. Obviously, everyone is going to benefit from this. Having the availability of more diapers for health and sanitary purposes for children is a benefit for healthy children. Educationally, our children will benefit because they can be in preschool and having the chance to have access to early childhood education. And obviously, because of the financial investment, those who sell diapers are going to have some benefit as well. For all those reasons, I'd ask us to just take this as a common sense measure and see how this small investment will go a very long way for our families. I urge support of AB 492.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Ms. Gonzalez, you may close.
I want to start by apologizing to my colleague from Irvine. I think we actually were talking around each other, but on the same thing. Diapers are treated like alcohol and tobacco. They're forbidden for you to use food stamps on. It's ridiculous. Diapers are absolutely a necessity when you're a young baby, obviously, and an older person as well, so that's another issue. But what this bill does specifically is it looks at our values as a community. Do we actually value that a woman has chosen to try to make it? She's had a baby. Maybe there's a good reason on her own. Maybe she's been abused. Maybe she's been raped. Maybe she's young and doesn't have the support of her family. So she has to rely on CalWORKs. And she does everything right. She tries to get a job, she gets an education, and she gets into subsidized childcare, and then tries to put her child in childcare and does not have enough to pay for the diapers necessary to leave that child. We should not have that kind of barrier to self-sufficiency. We should reward people who are trying to become self-sufficient. This is a common sense solution to a problem that poor women, the poorest women, face. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 60, noes 5. Measure passes. Going now to file item 21, AB 1244. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1244 by Assemblymember Gray and act relating to water.
Mr. Gray, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I rise to present AB 1244. This measure gives us greater flexibility in our water delivery system. It expands small irrigation registrations and allows greater flexibility for low-end PIC projects. In developing registration requirements, the bill requires the State Water Board to consult with the California Department of Food and Ag, the University of California Cooperative Extension, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. The bill has no opposition, and I respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 71, no 0. Measure passes. File item 22, AB 1346. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1346 by Assemblymember Gray and act relating to state government.
Mr. Gray, you're recognized again.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 1346 would require the Office of Emergency Services to update the state emergency plan every 5 years. This is a good bill, no opposition. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 74, noes 1. Measure passes. On Senate third reading, file items 23 and 24, we're going to pass and retain. And then, colleagues, at this time we have one bill on call. I'm going to lift the call on file item 9, AB 708. The clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 33, noes 27. The measure fails. Moving to the consent calendar, there are no items on today's consent calendar. And we're now going to move to announcements and adjournments. A number of members were granted prior permission to speak on an adjournment in memory. Colleagues, if I could please ask you to take your seats for the adjournment in memory. I'd like to first recognize Assemblymember Brown for her adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members. I would like to adjourn today in memory of William Henry Ratibu Jaycox. Ratibu Shadidi, also known as William Henry Jaycox, passed away on December the 10th at Kaiser Permanente in Fontana, California, at the age of 72. He was a longtime Rialto resident and was active in the community with his wife, former Assembly member Wilma Amina Carter, and together they founded the Inland Area Kwanzaa Group. Born January 31st in Norfolk, Virginia, in 1943, he served in the U.S. Army from 1961 to 1963. He moved to Riverside in the late 70s and began working in the field with Senator Ruben Ayala. He met his future wife in 1980 at the annual Black Athletes Hall of Fame, where she served as the co-chair for the event. That event drew such names as Don King. The two were married 4 years later by Dr. Malana Ron Karenga, a professor of African American Studies at Cal State Long Beach. He was the person who created Kwanzaa, the first Pan-African holiday. His African name, Ratibu, means one who puts things in their proper perspective, and Miss Carter Amina means one who is steadfast, resolute, and one who is honest. Ratibu would not ever take the word no for the answer. The final answer is always going to be yes for Ratibu Jaycox. He taught Sunday school at Temple Missionary Baptist Church in San Bernardino for more than 30 years. Their Kwanzaa group met and celebrated for over 20 years. He was a businessman. He ran a carpet and floor window covering company called Elegant Floors and published a directory of businesses operated by women and minorities called Creative Business Services, which was distributed in various cities, counties, and other agencies to promote minority-run businesses. He's survived by a wife of 34 years, Wilma Amina Carter of Rialto, daughters Melody Riley of Rialto, Malika Jaycox of Rialto, Jamila Shaw of Las Vegas, Nevada, sisters Jean Jaycox of Norfolk, Virginia, Odessa Jaycox of Chesapeake, Virginia, Catherine Jaycox of Hampton, Virginia, and a brother, James Jaycox of Somerset, New Jersey. I ask that we adjourn in his memory today. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, if I could ask you to please take your seats or take your conversations out of the chamber. I'd like to recognize Mr. Cooper for the next adjourn in memory.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. Today I'm adjourning in memory of my constituent, Aaron Wynn. Aaron passed away unexpectedly during basketball practice at Joseph Kerr Middle School in Elk Grove on Friday, January 22nd. Aaron was only 12 years old, a student at Toby Johnson Middle School. Aaron loved to play basketball. And on the day he passed away, he was actually sick and didn't feel like going to practice. And later on when he woke up, he told his dad, "I want to go to practice." Aaron was a member of a 12 and under basketball-based team in a developmental academy. Aaron played piano and took trumpet lessons and played basketball every chance he got. He was also a straight-A student and a hard worker who enjoyed spending time serving in his family's church. Life is precious. Let us honor and remember Aaron, a lovely child with a smile so big that it would bring a happy face to anyone. Aaron is survived by his father, Andrew, his mother, Tammy, his sister, Courtney, and his brother, Nathan. My thoughts and prayers go out to Aaron's family and friends during this time of mourning. Colleagues, I ask that we adjourn in memory of Aaron Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Members, please bring names to the desk to be printed in the journal. Our requests to adjourn in memory will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Moving to announcements, scheduled session is as follows. Friday, January the 29th, no floor session, no check-in session. Monday, February the 1st, floor session at noon. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions continued. Seeing and hearing no further business, I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Holden moves and Ms. Waldron seconds that this House stands adjourned until Monday, February the 1st at noon. Quorum call is lifted.